Today we're going over top FAQs and weird things to know about living in Vancouver, Washington. Hey, welcome back to the Living in Vancouver and Camas, Washington YouTube channel. I'm your host, Hannah Dubyne, and I'm glad you're here today because we are talking about FAQs that I get, frequently asked questions, and a couple other weird things that have just come up over the years. All of these questions and things to know are inspired by real life situations. So these questions come from our clients or people that comment on the channel or people that call us or just, friends and family that I talk to in the community. If you have any additional ones, drop them down below in the comments and we will add them to another video. By the way, if you're new here, thank you for watching. We have an awesome weekend email newsletter we send out every single weekend about fun events in the area and some real estate updates, so feel free to sign up for that down below. And of course, if you need help professionally buying or selling a home in Clark County, we'd love to serve you at Dubyne Realty Group. Our contact information is down below. Okay, let's get to my list of FAQs and weird things to know about Vancouver, Washington. This is part 3. I've made two other videos, so go watch those if you want to hear more. There might be some repeats in here. All right, the first one I have on my list that actually inspired me to make another one of these videos is about wall texture. By the way, the range of things we're going to talk about today is really random, so just bear with me. I have gotten a lot of people who have commented on our wall textures in our homes here, and our standard texture in this area is orange peel. Orange peel, we'll put a picture up here so you can see what it looks like. It's kind of nondescript. I don't really think much of it because it's literally what's everywhere in the Pacific Northwest. And you're gonna see it in homes from the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, and even brand new homes today. I've had people go through new construction homes and go, this texture is so old school. I can't believe you guys are still doing this. Where we're from, we do flat walls. I'm sitting in my office right now and they actually have flat texture walls in here. They don't have orange peel, but it's very uncommon to see a non-textured wall, like a flat wall. I think orange peel is great because it hides some of those imperfections. It hides, marks from kids, stuff like that. But just know that is our standard texture here. For all you folks coming from California, we only have one disclosure statement here, the seller's disclosure. It's I don't know, 5 or 6 pages long, maybe 7, and that's it. We don't have additional disclosures. The only additional disclosure would really be the lead-based paint disclosure, and that would be if the house was built before 1972. And we don't have a ton of those here. I do a handful every year, but for the most part, a lot of our homes were built after the 80s. So if you're coming from California, just know there's not going to be tons and tons and tons of disclosures. There's just a seller's disclosure, and it's kind of a formality. On that same note, for California, Arizona people, we don't have termites here. So you don't need a termite inspection when you go to purchase a home. Makes it easy, and yeah, really glad we don't have termites here. Flood zones are another question I get all the time. Hannah, are there flood zones in this area? Absolutely, we do have flood zones, though they are few and far between. What I want you to know here is if you're looking at flood zone information, please only use the FEMA flood maps directly from FEMA government website. I've had clients show me their phone on Redfin or Realtor.com, and they show me the flood rating from those sites, from those syndicate real estate websites. And it says high flood risk, and I go to check it on FEMA, and it's not a high flood risk, it's not in a flood zone. So I don't know where they pull that data from, but you should always refer back to the FEMA flood maps as the single source of truth, because that is what lenders will be using, and that is the official maps. On that same note, I would recommend you don't use the syndicate ratings on sites like Redfin and Realtor.com. There's a variety of things they rank these days. Flood is one of them, safety, noise, walkability, I don't know, there's some other ones. I just find that oftentimes they're very inaccurate and I don't know where they get the data from. So always go to the source of truth, always go directly to the data rather than relying on the syndicate websites. There's been so many times where I've shown clients the actual data, I've shown them the FEMA map, I've shown them the crime map, but the syndicate site says something else and they're kind of wigged out about it. But I'm like, hey, look at the actual data that they should be referring to. It says this, please don't look at the syndicate site. I get folks who ask if we are a pet-friendly area in Southwest Washington, and I think the answer is yes. Obviously, we love cats. Cats are mostly inside here, so kind of do your thing with cats. I think people are more referring to dogs, and we do have a lot of dogs here. I find that especially new construction communities tend to attract dog owners. I think of like Ramble Creek and Green Mountain neighborhood by Holt Homes. They both have big, beautiful parks, lots of walking opportunities, so a lot of people in there have dogs. We don't have a lot of new dog parks that are going in per se, though we do have a couple around town, and I would definitely check those out. But if you have dogs, yeah, it's a great area for that. Is winter really terrible? Well, it depends on who you ask, because that's more of an opinion-based question. I'm of the opinion that it's not too terrible. Granted, I'm still young. I'm sure I'm going to feel a different way in another 20 or 30 years. And we really do get all 4 seasons here, so winter doesn't last 6 months here. We don't have snow on the ground for months on end. Winter is, January, February, March are really those hard months where it's gloomier and colder, and maybe we'll get a little bit of snow. But once those are over, winter's done. I know there's other parts of the country, in like the Midwest, where snow will stick around till like April. What I will say is that SAD is real, seasonal affective disorder. Right? It's a depression you can get because it's gray outside and because it's cold and because the sun is not out. Definitely we all are in a little bit of a slump in the winter because we don't have that sun to make us happy. I'm looking outside right now, it's winter and it's, it is sunny outside and people are happier on those days. But just consider SAD and, make sure you know about it if you're gonna move here. Are wildfires a risk here? Yes, wildfires are a risk. We are not immune from wildfires. However, I will say that we never have wildfires in the city itself, not even close. We don't have anything even close to what California has, or Southern Oregon, or Central Oregon, or Eastern Washington. Those are more dry climates. We get rain all winter long here, and fall, and in spring, and so we're not dried out, which is great. We do, at the end of summer, tend to get wildfires, an hour down in the gorge, in the rural areas, way off, but not in the city. So if you're in the city, you don't need to worry about it. Is homeowners insurance hard to obtain? No. Homeowners insurance here is still very open and, very easy to apply for. I've not had a single client tell me that they were unable to obtain homeowners insurance, which is great. That is definitely not the case in states like California and Florida. I know they're struggling right now. We are so good with our insurance here, you can even get earthquake insurance at a reasonable rate. I have lots of clients who moved from California, and most of y'all down there say that earthquake insurance is either not available or it costs too much. It's just not realistic. I have an earthquake policy on my home from 𝐂𝐐𝐬. That's one of the big providers. And I think I pay $300, maybe $400 a year for a 2,200 square foot house. That's really reasonable for me, and that's an amazing return on my money if there's ever an earthquake. So I would highly recommend you all get earthquake insurance. Do you have active volcanoes in Washington? Yes, we do. We have many volcanoes, or we refer to them really more as mountains, close by in the area. If you don't already know, Mount St. Helens blew in 1980. I was not around for that. I was not alive at that time, but here was crazy. The good thing about it is that scientists knew that it was going to blow. They could tell from the seismic readings and how the mountain was. So there was some heads up. I've not heard of anything in my lifetime about one of the mountains blowing, but it could happen. That would be crazy. Is there a boating culture in Clark County, Washington? I would say no. I've gotten this question from clients who've moved from places like the East Coast and from Florida, where a lot of people have boats and a lot of people have direct access to waterways from their home. It is really rare to own a home here where you can dock your boat on your property, right? The Columbia River, Vancouver Lake is extremely limited. Camas Lake is also pretty limited. There's just not a lot of opportunities for it here. Really, the Columbia would be the best one, and those are all, very highly coveted pieces of land, and of course, incredibly expensive. For folks who have boats, it's really more of a, drop it in situation. You have it in storage, or you have it in your RV bay, and you go put it in a public boat launch. Are screened-in porches a thing, and do we have a lot of mosquitoes? No, screened-in porches are not a thing here. I've never seen one in a house, and we are pretty solid on mosquitoes. We do get mosquitoes in the summer. We're not immune from them. They tend to come out in the more rural areas and at night, but they're not going to eat you alive for the most part. You don't need a screened-in porch. Would not recommend you install one. We even have a mosquito control division here in Vancouver. I believe it's through the city of Vancouver. And it's kind of cool. You'll see them drive around in their little carts in the summer, and I think they just spray everything to control the mosquitoes. They drive around in like the little parking cars. So there you go. Are there camping opportunities in the area? Yes, we have lots of camping opportunities here. If you like to camp in a tent or you have like a trailer or an RV, honestly, it's one of the best places to live for that. If you go over by Mount Hood, there are dozens, if not hundreds of campsites, some of them with lakes. They're so pretty over there. We go there every year. You can go over to Eastern Washington and there's campsites. You can go down the gorge and there's campsites. You can go up to kind of the northeast part of Clark County where it's more rural and there's campsites up there. Lake Merwin has some great campsites. So absolutely. Do you have basements here? Kind of. We do not have a lot of traditional basements like you think of, you know, in an old home where you go underneath and there's only little windows at the top and maybe there's a door that was dug out so you can walk out, but it's still underground. We don't have a lot of that here. You're only going to find that in, I would say, homes built 60s and before. What we have here is daylight basements, and a daylight basement would only occur if you're built on a hill, right? If this is your home, this is entry level, then you have this part down here that would be a really tall crawl space. And instead of it being a tall crawl space, you build it out and you make it a living space and you can walk out the back, right? You get daylight in the back. You usually have a slider door and you can walk right out. I think daylight basements are much better than traditional basements. They hold more value. They're more livable. They feel better because they get more natural light. And again, that's only going to occur if you live on a hill. So if you have a flat site where a new house is being built, you're not going to build an underground basement. You're going to build on crawl space, and that is our best type of foundation here. Is there a good food scene? Well, again, it depends on who you ask. I don't think I'd really consider myself a foodie. I like to go out to eat, but I don't like go out of my way to go to the craziest restaurants every weekend. I think for Clark County, we have 500,000 people in the county. Keep that in mind. We have a pretty good food scene. We're not going to have the best Michelin star restaurants. We're too small for that. But you can just hop over to Portland if that's what you're into. We do have a lot of clients who are foodies, self-proclaimed foodies, and they like to go over there every weekend or multiple times a week. And everything you could imagine is over in Portland. All the different types of cultural food, lots of well-ranking restaurants. So I think we're pretty solid on the food scene here. Is Clark County walkable? I would say no, not really. For your daily transportation, this is a very car-centric area. That is how things have been set up here. We do have a bus system that is slow and very seldom used. I don't know a single person that uses the bus system. And we do have biking lanes, but things are so far apart. It rains so often here. It's just not practical. So everyone pretty much uses their car. It's great to live in an area where you can walk to some things such as a park or shops close by, but it's very unlikely you're only gonna be able to walk where, you know, like you're gonna need a car for some stuff. Can you go over the river to make tax-free purchases if you live in Washington? The technical answer is actually no. Technically that's illegal. If you're a Washington resident, you are supposed to declare that you're a Washington resident and still pay the sales tax on that item because you're not paying state income tax here in Washington. But no one is really tracking that. So yes, you can go over there and buy stuff tax-free. We know a lot of people who go over there for like IKEA runs or Best Buy. There's a reason there's only a Best Buy on the Oregon side and not one in Clark County because people didn't want to pay sales tax. So people do that. You cannot get away with not paying the sales tax on like a car or a boat purchase. I have a little quote here. I'm going to read it to you guys that I found online. The Washington tax is actually a sales and use tax, which means that consumers are liable to pay the tax on goods purchased out of state but used in Washington. However, this provision is difficult to enforce, so Washington residents frequently make untaxed purchases in Oregon without getting caught. Only on large items that must be registered in Washington in order to be used, such as cars and boats, is the use part of the tax easily enforced. So hopefully that helps. Yeah, really no one is tracking you down if you save $100 on sales tax on, a laptop or something. But if you make a big purchase, you will have to report that if it's like a car or vehicle. Well, that's all I got for you guys today for our FAQs part 3. I hope you enjoyed this random mash of information. I hope it was helpful. If you have other random questions, we might be able to answer them for you. We'll make a part 4 at some point, so drop them down below. If you need help professionally selling or buying a home in Camas, Vancouver, or Clark County, myself and my team at Dubyne Realty Group, we would absolutely love to serve you. Text us, email us, or DM us. Our contact information is down below, and we can't wait to see you again next week. Bye.